Hey, what's going on, y'all? It's Nick here with F.O.F, Financial Coaching LLC, and I'm here today to talk about what else? Money. Hope you guys are having a great day today. So the topic for today is, how do you handle financial setbacks, especially when you're trying to stick to the budget, you're trying to stick to your financial goals. And so this right here is not that easy, because we all know we've hit some type of financial setback within our life. And we know that one is on the way, and it may come, such as life. Adversity will strike. So I got a blog on adversity. You guys can check that out, a YouTube video. And I hope that you guys enjoy that as well. But it's just a real quick one. And so here, me and my wife, we want to get a little bit more in depth. So you may hear her chime in from time to time as we talking on this. So really, as I want to get into it, the first thing is when you hit a financial setback, I know my wife and I have hit them plenty of times, especially when we were trying to get out of debt and pay off that house. There were times where we got hit with expenses that was maybe $700, $600 here within the month. And so what that did was it took away from how much money we could put toward the house. And that was difficult because emotionally it was like, oh man, this is really taken away. But something that my wife and I talked about is when those financial setbacks start to come in, it's important that before you do anything, no matter what your financial situation is you stop, you take a step back, and you just take a deep breath, just like a breathe, all right? Because it is an emotional thing sometimes. It does like hit you, and it can hurt, especially when you're trying to achieve something, you're moving forward towards something, you got your plan together, and you're feeling good about it, and then boom, here comes $500 because your car breaks down. That right there can be hurtful. And so because it's hurtful, it makes you really want to give up at times, right? It makes you want to stop. It makes you want to not keep going. You got something to say?
Right. You don't really want your emotions to influence your reaction at that point. I agree with you. It's definitely important to stop and take a breath or two and just reevaluate the situation.
And so when reevaluating the situation, I think you start to realize that there are other options. Now, another thing is when you start to reevaluate, don't lose hope. Because what that does, it makes you desperate. And then all of a sudden you want to go start trying to get money through loans. You want to start using credit cards for emergencies. You'll go to like payday loan places. And no matter what, those are some of the worst things that you can do. Because some of those companies are even preying on people, knowing that it's difficult to pay an interest loan that's like 20%, 30%, 300% interest on these loans, and it's just taking advantage of them. Don't lose hope. Even if you got to talk to somebody or try and do something before you make that decision, because credit cards should not be used for emergency. Some people say don't use credit cards at all. We're not credit card users, but definitely do not use them for emergency. That's not how they should be used.
And you're right. I can attest to being an avid having a credit card for emergency use before we got married. Like that was like, I thought that was okay in my opinion. But I can see now at this point with us being married that it's not necessary. If you have that emergency fund saved up, you don't necessarily need that credit card.
Right. And so with that, I had to explain to my wife at the time. Well, not my wife at the time. She's still my wife now. Lord willing, she'll be my wife. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I had to explain. I'm like, okay, so if you use a credit card for emergency, you probably have a credit card limit. Let's say it's like $3,000. But if you don't have $3,000 and you pay for that emergency, then you're going to be paying $3,000 plus probably like a 12% interest, because they're just going to say, oh, just pay the minimum payment. So it'll take you forever to get out of that. Why not just have the $3,000 saved up cash as an emergency? And so that kind of rolls us into what are some of those steps that you need to take in order to handle a financial setback. So the first one is, my wife already said it, was have an emergency fund, all right? So emergency fund is cash. You want to have cash in the bank. Now something you can do that's smart is open up a bank account that's not linked to a debit card and take $1,000 and put it into this bank account, maybe in the savings account of this bank account, so that you can't get to it, so that something like an emergency caliber has to happen. So emergency caliber is your car breaks down and it's your transportation to get to work. That's an emergency, right? Let's say you get hit with a medical bill. That's an emergency. What else could be an emergency? I would say if you have a house, your pipes burst, your HVAC goes down. Anybody who is a homeowner or has a mortgage on a house, you already know that so many different things can happen and can cause problems, right? If you have children and something comes up with them, as far as medical bills or something like that, those can be emergencies that you gotta take care of, right? If you have a tax bill, oh my goodness, if you owe the IRS, that is an emergency. That's something that you wanna take care of immediately, all right? We'll do that in another blog or another vlog or another YouTube video. I don't know why I keep saying blog, like it definitely is 2020, so I definitely know the difference. But anyway, the point is that you got to take care of these emergencies, but you have to do it in a way that makes sense. You got to make sure that you're settled as you're going into doing it. And so having an emergency fund, if you're in a lot of consumer debt, meaning you got a lot of credit card debt, meaning you have just like payday loans, things that you consume, not like a mortgage or anything like that, even a car loan, that to me is definitely consumer debt. You want to first start out by getting $1,000 in the bank for an emergency. Let's say you got to use the emergency fund for something, and this is a real emergency. Not Amazon has a sale, not TJ Maxx is doing something special. I would say Walmart, but you know, they don't have sales, so you know Walmart gonna be Walmart. We know that already. And so anyway, what? Walmart does not have sales.
They do sometimes.
No, they do not. Walmart is rollback. They do
Rollback,
not have sales. Right, they do rollback. They do not have sales. But anyway, my wife does all the shopping, so and I know Walmart don't have sales. But look, anyway, the point is that when it comes to this emergency fund, you're only using it when those big things happen. And if you have to use the money, so let's say the car breaks down, you have to go ahead and use $500. Then what you want to do is save up that $500 back to pay yourself back to put it back for the emergency, all right? So make sure you do that. Now, once you get out of consumer debt and all you have left is your mortgage, then you want to save up 3 to 6 months and whatever you're comfortable with, 3 months to 6 months of your expenses, all right? Not your income, but your expenses. That means what you're paying for per month. If you're budgeting, you should know that number, all right? And so that's important because, again, if you got a home or you're ready to buy a home, things happen, things break down. When we bought our house, we had to pay like $2,000 up front to get a pipe fixed after we had it for like a couple months. And so that was rough. And you never want to do it, especially for stuff like that, because you can't see it. It's non-cosmetic, so it doesn't look good. Nobody's going to really appreciate it. But when I go to the bathroom and flush the toilet, I wanted to go down in the sewer and into the right spot. So I don't know about y'all, but that's just how I think, all right? So anyway, with that, you also want to think about that 3 to 6 months. And if you lose your job, especially in times like this right now, then you can sustain yourself for 3 to 6 months of those expenses. And hopefully you'll cut some of your expenses down as well, so you may be able to sustain a little bit longer, all right? So that's the importance of having that emergency fund, and that is a big way that you can handle those financial setbacks. So when that adversity strikes, you're more confident, you're better at making decisions, and you're not just going everywhere. Like my old coach said, you run around like you're like a chicken with his head cut off. The other thing you can do, and something that my wife and I were able to do, praise the Lord, well, sometimes you can cash flow those emergencies. So to make this as simple as possible, let's say you have a plan that you're trying to save for a trip. And you're saving, let's say, $500 a month to go toward the trip that you're trying to do. And this is extra. This is just icing on the cake. And you have that in your budget. And so let's say you have a $300, $400, $500 emergency happen that month. So instead of pulling from your emergency fund, what you can do is say, okay, this money that I'm saving for my trip, what I'm going to do is put that toward the emergency that happened, and then it gets canceled out. You get paid, you're good, free, and clear. Now, you didn't save for your trip, but you may have to wait till next month to save towards your trip. Now, that's the way that you can cash flow an emergency. Now, I know that's hurtful because it hurts me when you're trying to save up for something and then you have to use the money for something else. But at the same time, if you put it from your emergency fund, you gotta put the money back into your emergency fund to keep it where it is that you had it. So either way it goes, you're gonna lose that $500. So the point is, overall, is when it comes to cash flowing an emergency, if you do that, everything is still intact. It is a little bit hurtful. You have to be able to deal with that type of adversity and make the good decision, because again, you don't want to start making decisions because you're too emotional or you're too tied to something. Lord willing, wherever you're trying to go will still be there. If it pushes it out a month, then so be it, all right? But you can still get there. And mind you, just so y'all know, when my wife and I were trying to pay off our house, our plan was 3 years. And so by the grace of God, we're able to do it in 19 months. And so I say that because sometimes when you have something planned, it can be longer or shorter, but you just got to stick with it, all right? But overall, the big thing dealing with financial setbacks is you got to get back on the horse. You can't give up, and you can't lose hope. You can't be desperate, because when you're desperate, we all make bad decisions when we're desperate. That's why we start dating people we have no business dating. We start doing things we have no business doing. It's because we get desperate sometimes. And so even with your finances, when you get desperate, you make bad decisions. So do what you can do to not be desperate. Be wise. And I hope that you guys really take that in, that when financial setbacks come, as they do, you'll be prepared and you'll be ready. And if you're getting prepared for it, understand that it may be difficult at first, but keep getting back on that horse, all right? So I hope that you guys enjoyed this. Hope that was helpful to you. And if you need more help with that, please send me a comment, share this, subscribe to it, and you can send me an email, and I would definitely look to help as best as I can. Thank you.